The great window of Andorian Station curved in a perfect arc, offering a view of stars that stretched forever. Commander Ellis stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his blue-tinted scales catching the light as he gazed at the empty sector of space. 50 years of service to the Galactic Union, and the last 20 had been spent watching nothing happen in this forgotten corner of the universe. Another boring day in paradise, he muttered to himself. The command center hummed with quiet activity. Officers tapped at screens without urgency. Some chatted about sports matches happening worlds away. The air smelled of the sweet food paste that Officer Reed always ate during his shift, a habit that annoyed Ellis, though he never said anything about it. "Sir, the quarterly reports are ready for your approval," said Reed, approaching with a data tablet. The young officer's green uniform was perfectly pressed, his four-fingered hands holding the tablet with unnecessary formality. Ellis took the tablet without looking at it. "Anything worth mentioning?" "Same as always, sir. No unauthorized entries. Standard trade vessels passing through the marked lanes. One minor asteroid collision in the outer belt, but the automated systems handled it." Ellis nodded and pressed his thumb to the tablet, leaving behind a small flake of scale. 20 years since our last security alert. Must be some kind of record. "The Union Council says peace is good for business," Reed replied, reciting the standard line. "Peace makes soldiers soft," Ellis said. He turned from the window and looked around the command center. The defensive systems console was covered with someone's lunch container. The weapons station was being used to display a game of chance between two junior officers. "Look at this place. Half our systems are running basic diagnostics instead of active scans. When I started, we ran combat drills every cycle." "With respect, sir, the last major conflict ended before either of us was born," Reed said. Ellis grunted. The young officer was right, of course. The Galactic Union had spread across 17 sectors of space, absorbing or defeating any civilization that resisted. The only threats these days were pirates near the major trade routes or the occasional natural disaster. Andorian Station was positioned at the edge of Union space, facing only unexplored stars and one insignificant solar system containing a developing world called Earth. "What do we know about Earth these days?" Ellis asked, surprising Reed with the sudden change of topic. Reed blinked his large eyes twice. "Earth? The primitive world in System 12983? Not much in the reports, sir. They achieved basic space travel about a century ago, visited their moon, sent some simple probes to nearby planets. The Union made first contact 50 years back and classified them as a Category 3 developing civilization. Meaning? Meaning they're at least 5 centuries from achieving technology that would qualify them for Union membership," Reed explained. "The assessment team found them still burning fossil fuels and fighting among themselves. Their space program was determined to be more symbolic than practical." Ellis nodded. He remembered the assessment now. The Union maintained minimal observation of Earth, checking in every decade or so. The last report noted they had established a small base on their red neighboring planet, but hadn't progressed much further. Their weapons still relied on chemical propellants and crude nuclear designs. Their computer systems were primitive compared to standard Union technology. "Why do you ask about Earth, sir?" Reed questioned. Ellis shrugged his broad shoulders. "Just making conversation." The truth was more complex. Last night, Ellis had dreamed of Earth. In the dream, he had seen ships rising from the blue planet's surface, thousands of them darkening the sky. He wasn't superstitious, but the dream had left him uneasy. His species had occasional premonitions, though Ellis had never experienced one himself. "Sir, we have an unscheduled arrival," called out Officer Tarn from the sensor station. The sudden alertness in Tarn's voice made several heads turn. Ellis moved quickly to the station, his old military instincts awakening. "Show me." The screen displayed a small vessel approaching from the direction of System 12983. It moved at sublight speed, using a propulsion system that left a distinct energy trail. The ship's design was unfamiliar, sleek and gray, with none of the colorful markings typical of Union vessels or the aggressive styling of known pirate ships. "Origin?" Ellis demanded. Tarn's fingers moved across the console. Checking registry now, no match in our database. Wait. Analyzing the composition and design. Sir, I believe it's from Earth. A murmur spread through the command center. An Earth ship? This far into space? The Earthlings had barely mastered travel to their neighboring planet. Impossible, Ellis said. They don't have the technology for deep space travel. Their fastest ships would take decades to reach us. The readings are clear, sir, Tarn insisted. Materials and radiation signature match Earth origin. And look at this. He pointed to an image captured by the long-range scanners. The ship had markings on its hull, simple letters in the Earth language called English. The Harbinger, Ellis. Felt a chill run down his spine as he remembered his dream. Weapons scan? None detected, sir, Reed reported, now fully alert at his proper station. It appears to be an unarmed vessel, small crew complement, reading only 5 life forms aboard. Their shield technology is minimal, barely enough for standard meteor deflection. Ellis relaxed slightly. An unarmed ship with 5 crew members posed no threat to a Union station with over 200 personnel and defense systems that could destroy a small moon. They're transmitting a message, sir, Tarn announced. Audio only in standard Galactic Union trade language. Play it, Ellis ordered. A clear, confident voice filled the command center. Andorian Station, this is Captain Miller of the Earth. Vessel Harbinger. We come in peace as explorers and request permission to dock for repairs and cultural exchange. Please respond. The officers looked to Ellis. This was unprecedented. Earth was not a member of the Union. They had no rights to dock at a military installation. Protocol dictated that they should be directed to a civilian port at one of the trading worlds where their technology could be properly assessed. But Ellis was curious. How had an Earth vessel made it this far? Their last assessment had shown nothing close to this capability. Sir? Reed prompted. Shall I direct them to Trading Post 7? Ellis considered for a moment. No. Grant them permission to dock at Auxiliary, Bay 3. Full security protocols. I want to see this Earthship for myself. Sir, regulations state, Reed began. I know the regulations. Ellis cut him off. But something doesn't add up. Earth shouldn't have this technology. I want to know how they got here and what they really want. As orders spread throughout the station to prepare for the unprecedented visitors, Ellis returned to the window. The small Earth vessel was now visible as a tiny speck against the backdrop of stars, growing larger as it approached. Too small to be a threat, he reassured himself, but too advanced to make sense. What Ellis couldn't see was what happened inside the Earth ship as it approached. Captain Miller sat in the command chair, his eyes closed as the neural interface connected his mind directly to the ship's systems. Around him, 4 crew members similarly interfaced with the Harbinger's advanced systems. Atlas, Miller subvocalized to the artificial intelligence that was the true brain of the ship. Begin passive scans of their defensive systems and communications. Record everything. Scanning initiated, Captain, responded the AI directly into Miller's mind. Their technology is exactly as our intelligence suggested, outdated, inefficient, vulnerable. Miller allowed himself a small smile. Perfect. Earth's first real step into the galaxy begins now. The ship continued its approach, looking simple and harmless from the outside, exactly as planned. The most dangerous ship Earth had ever built entered the system, and the Galactic Union had no idea what was coming. The docking bay hummed as the Harbinger settled onto the landing pad. Andorian Station's artificial gravity pulled at the Earth vessel, making its metal skin creak slightly. Commander Ellis stood with a small welcome party, Officer Reed, security, Chief Adams, and Technician Williams. All 4 watched with professional curiosity as the ship's airlock cycled. Remember, Ellis said quietly to the others, these humans have never been this far into space before. Be patient with them. The airlock hissed open, and 2 figures stepped out onto the station deck. They wore simple dark blue uniforms without badges or decorations, just a small patch on their shoulders, showing Earth's continents in blue against a black background. Ellis was surprised by how normal they looked. He had seen images of humans, before, but meeting them in person was different. They stood upright like many species in the Union, with 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin tones were different, one lighter, one darker, and they had hair on their heads, but nowhere else visible. They looked soft, vulnerable, without natural protection like scales or plates. The taller human stepped forward first. Captain James Miller of Earth Vessel Harbinger. Thank you for allowing us to dock, Commander. His voice was deep and clear, his face showing what Ellis recognized as a human smile, a non-threatening expression. Ellis touched his chest in the standard Union greeting. Commander Ellis, Andorian Station Command. This is my second officer Reed, Security Chief Adams, and Technician Williams. The second human nodded at each introduction. Lieutenant Lisa Jackson, Navigation and Communications, she said. Her voice was lighter than Miller's, but equally confident. Ellis noted how steady they both seemed. Most species made their first, deep space journeys with wide eyes and shaking limbs. These humans acted like they had done this many times before. Your message mentioned repairs, Ellis said. How can we assist? Miller nodded. Our propulsion system developed a minor issue. During the journey? Nothing serious, but we'd appreciate access to your technical facilities. Of course, Ellis replied, gesturing to Technician Williams. Williams here will show you to our repair bay. But first, would you honor us by joining me for a meal? It's customary in the Union to share food with new visitors. We'd be delighted, Miller said. As they walked through the station corridors, Ellis noticed both humans looking around with careful attention. Most visitors stared at the ceiling heights or the viewing windows. These humans studied the door mechanisms, the communication panels, the security scanners. Your station is impressive, Jackson said, though her tone suggested she wasn't actually impressed. It's one of our older installations, Ellis admitted. Over 200 years in operation. The newer stations in the central systems are much more advanced. I'm curious, Miller said casually. How many ships pass through this sector? Ellis considered the question. It seemed innocent enough. Perhaps 20 trade vessels in a standard month. Occasionally a Union patrol cruiser. We're far from the main space lanes. They arrived at the station's dining hall, a large room with views of the surrounding stars. Food processors hummed along one wall, producing meals customized for different species needs. A few off-duty officers sat at tables trying not to stare at the human visitors. After they were seated with food, Ellis decided to ask some questions of his own. Your journey here is quite remarkable. Our records show Earth has only achieved basic interplanetary travel. Miller took a bite of the synthesized protein the processor had created based on human nutritional needs. He seemed unsurprised by the taste. Earth has progressed significantly in recent years, Miller said. We found that necessity drives innovation. When resources became limited on our home planet, we had to look outward. And develop faster-than-light travel, apparently, Reed interjected. Our last assessment showed Earth decades away from such technology. Jackson smiled. We've always found that other species underestimate humans. It's a pattern throughout our history, even among ourselves. Ellis noticed that neither human actually explained how they had achieved their apparent leap in technology. He tried another approach. What is your purpose here beyond repairs? Earth has no formal diplomatic relations with the Union. Miller set down his eating utensil. Exploration and learning, Commander. Earth is ready to engage more actively with the wider galaxy. We hope this journey will be the first step toward more formal relations. A noble goal, Ellis said, though unusual to send such a small ship. Most first diplomatic missions include cultural advisors, trade experts, military attachés. We travel light, Miller said with that same confident smile. And we learn quickly. After the meal, Williams escorted Miller and Jackson to the repair bay, while Ellis and Reed returned to the command center. What do you think? Ellis asked. When they were alone, Reed's large eyes narrowed slightly. They're hiding something, sir. Their technology shouldn't exist based on our information, and they ask too many questions. But they seem peaceful enough, Ellis noted. The most dangerous predators often appear harmless until they strike, Reed replied. In the repair bay, Miller and Jackson worked on their ship while Williams watched from a respectful distance. The technician was impressed by how quickly the humans' hands moved over their equipment. Your systems are quite unique, Williams observed, coming closer. I don't recognize this type of propulsion manifold. It's a recent development, Miller said without looking up, based on principles our scientists discovered in deep-sea research. Williams blinked in confusion. How does ocean research apply? To space travel? Jackson smiled. Pressure differentials, energy conversion, microcurrent manipulation. The principles are surprisingly similar. None of that made sense to Williams, but he nodded anyway. May I? He asked, reaching toward a panel. We appreciate your interest, Miller said firmly, but our technology is somewhat temperamental. Better if we handle it. Williams backed away. Of course. Let me know if you need any tools. When Williams stepped outside to speak with a colleague, Jackson turned to Miller and spoke in a whisper. Atlas reports the station's defensive systems are even more outdated than we expected. Their sensor grid has blind spots large enough to fly a carrier through. Miller nodded slightly. And their communication encryption is basic. Atlas has already cracked it. Every message in and out of this station is being recorded. Jackson's fingers moved across a panel, though she wasn't actually repairing anything. They don't suspect. They're curious about our technology, but they're not alarmed. They see us as an anomaly, not a threat. Miller glanced toward the doorway where Williams had disappeared. How much longer? Jackson closed the panel. The quantum beacon is already deployed. It's mapping their entire network. 6 more hours until complete scan. Perfect. Miller straightened up and raised his voice to normal levels just as Williams returned. I think we've got it fixed, Technician Williams. Thank you for your patience. Williams smiled, showing teeth that seemed too sharp for his otherwise gentle face. Wonderful news. Would you like a tour of our station while your systems stabilize? We'd be honored, Miller replied. As they followed Williams through the station's corridors, Jackson's right hand occasionally brushed against wall panels and security scanners. Each touch left behind a microscopic device, no larger than a dust particle, that attached to the station's systems. The devices were bioelectric, powered by the energy field all electronic systems naturally emit, undetectable by the station's outdated security scans. Back in the command center, Ellis stared at the human ship on the monitor. The Harbinger looked so simple, so harmless. Yet something about it made his scales itch. He remembered his dream, again, the fleet of ships rising from Earth. Just a coincidence, he told himself. Run a deep scan on that vessel, he ordered Reed suddenly. Reed looked surprised. Sir? That's against diplomatic protocols without cause. Humor me, Ellis said. Reed hesitated, then nodded. Yes, sir. As the scan began, neither of them noticed the small alert on a secondary screen, an alert indicating unusual data flows within the station's communications network. The most dangerous ship from Earth had already begun its real mission, and no one on Andorian Station suspected a thing. 3 station cycles had passed since the arrival of the Harbinger. The humans, Miller and Jackson, had become a common sight around Andorian Station. They asked for tours of different sections, joined off-duty officers for meals, and shared stories about Earth that seemed designed to emphasize their planet's struggles and limitations. But Officer Reed wasn't fooled. He sat alone in his quarters, reviewing data from the deep scan he had run on the Earth vessel. Most of the results showed nothing unusual, a simple ship with modest technology. But there was one anomaly that kept drawing his attention. Every 6 hours, the Harbinger experienced a brief power surge. The surge lasted only seconds and was so small that the standard scans missed it entirely. What are you doing, Earthship? Reed muttered to himself. A chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. Enter, he called. Technician Williams stepped into the room, his usual calm expression replaced by worry. Sir, may I speak with you privately? Reed gestured to the empty chair across from him. What's troubling you, Williams? Williams sat down and lowered his voice. It's about the human ship. I've been helping them with their repairs, but something doesn't make sense. Go on, Reed said, suddenly alert. They claim their propulsion system is based on principles discovered in their oceans, but I've studied the energy readings. It's not like anything in our database, but it's far more advanced than they pretend. Williams leaned forward. And I noticed something else. When they think I'm not watching, they're not actually repairing anything, they're gathering data. Reed nodded slowly. I've noticed power surges from their ship every 6 hours. Any idea what could cause that? Williams' eyes widened. Quantum communication requires energy pulses to stabilize the signal. The Union experimented with it a century ago, but abandoned it as impractical. You think they're communicating with Earth from this distance? Reed found it hard to believe. That's technology even our best scientists haven't perfected. I don't know, Williams admitted. But yesterday, I saw something on one of their screens before Jackson shut it down. It looked like a complete schematic of our power grid. Reed's pulse quickened. We need to inform Commander Ellis immediately. In the Harbinger, Captain Miller sat with his eyes closed, neural interface active, as Atlas shared the latest findings directly into his mind. Scan complete, Captain. The AI's voice echoed in his thoughts. I have mapped 94% of the station's systems and downloaded 87% of their database. The Galactic Union's border defense strategy is remarkably uniform and outdated. Miller processed the visual data Atlas provided, detailed schematics of not just Andorian Station, but the entire sector's defense network. What about their weapons capabilities? Significantly overestimated in Earth's intelligence reports, Atlas replied. Their energy weapons are powerful, but slow to charge. Their shields cannot withstand sustained attack from multiple vectors. Most concerning for them, they have no effective countermeasures against quantum phase technology. And the wider Union? Based on the data here, the Union maintains control through size, not technological superiority. They have not made a significant military advancement in over a century. Their strategy relies on overwhelming numbers and the appearance of invincibility. Miller smiled slightly. Earth's gamble had paid off. For decades, Earth governments had maintained a public image of slow technological progress, all while secretly developing innovations that leapfrogged Union standards. When the Union observers came, they were shown old rocket technology and outdated computer systems, Potemkin villages of technological backwardness. Transmission to Earth Command ready, Atlas informed him. Shall I proceed with the final data package? Send it, Miller confirmed. And prepare departure protocols. We have what we came for. Commander Ellis was reviewing the station's quarterly supply requests when Reed and Williams burst into his office without announcing themselves. Sir, we need to talk about the Earth ship, Reed said urgently. Ellis set down his tablet. What's happened? Reed quickly explained their concerns. The power surges, the advanced propulsion system, the schematics Williams had glimpsed. They're not here for repairs or diplomacy, Williams added. They're gathering intelligence. Ellis felt his earlier unease return stronger than ever. Where are the humans now? Captain Miller requested a tour of our communications hub, Reed replied. Officer Tarn is escorting them. The communications hub? Ellis stood abruptly. Lock down that section immediately. I want security teams there now. As Reed rushed to the command console to issue the orders, Ellis turned to Williams. What else could they access from the communications hub? Everything, Williams said grimly. From there, they could potentially download our entire command protocols, defense codes, Union communications encryption keys. Ellis hit the station-wide alert button. Red lights began flashing throughout the complex as the security lockdown engaged. Sir, Reed called from the console. Security reports the humans are no longer in the communications hub. They're heading back to their ship. Stop them, Ellis ordered, and prepare a full security sweep of all systems. Miller and Jackson walked quickly but calmly toward the docking bay. Behind them, alarm lights flashed and the station's computer announced a security lockdown. They've figured it out, Jackson said quietly. Miller nodded. Doesn't matter. Mission complete. Atlas sent the final package. As they rounded the last corner to the docking bay, they found Commander Ellis waiting with 6 security officers, all holding standard Union energy weapons. "Captain Miller," Ellis said formally, his voice cold, "I must ask you and Lieutenant Jackson to surrender yourselves for questioning." Miller stopped, keeping a respectful distance. "Is there a problem, Commander? Your ship has been transmitting unknown signals. You've accessed restricted systems, and you've misrepresented your planet's technological capabilities." Ellis stepped forward. "Those are serious violations of Union security protocols." Miller's friendly expression didn't waver. "We've done nothing hostile, Commander. We're simply visitors learning about our galactic neighbors." "Then you won't mind if we conduct a thorough inspection of your vessel?" Ellis replied. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Miller said calmly. "We're scheduled to depart immediately." Ellis raised his hand and the security officers aimed their weapons. "That wasn't a request, Captain." Miller sighed, then pressed a small device on his wrist. Instantly, every light on the station flickered. The security doors that had been locked during the alert suddenly slid open. "What have you done?" Ellis demanded. "A simple override," Miller explained. "Your security systems are quite basic by our standards." Ellis felt a cold fear spreading through his body. These humans weren't primitive at all. "Who are you really? What does Earth want?" Miller's expression became serious for the first time. "We are exactly who we said we are, Commander. Explorers. But exploration takes many forms. Sometimes you discover places, sometimes you discover opportunities. Stand down," Ellis ordered his security team as he realized the danger of provoking these humans. "Let them return to their ship." Miller and Jackson walked past the security team, who looked to Ellis in confusion but kept their weapons lowered. At the entrance to their ship, Miller paused and turned back. "Commander Ellis, thank you for your hospitality. Earth appreciates the knowledge we've gained here." "You won't get far," Ellis warned. "I've already sent an alert to the nearest Union patrol cruiser. The Righteous will intercept you before you reach Earth space." Miller smiled again, but this time there was no warmth in it. "I look forward to the meeting. It will be educational for all parties." As the humans disappeared into their ship, Ellis felt the chill of realization. The Union had gravely underestimated Earth, and he had allowed their spies complete access to one of the Union's military installations. "Sir," Reed called from behind him, "Williams has completed a preliminary system check. The humans planted devices throughout the station. Our database has been copied. Security codes, patrol routes, defensive capabilities, they have everything." The docking clamps released with a loud clang, and the Harbinger began to move away from the station. Its engines glowed with an energy signature unlike anything in Union records. "Send the alert to all Union stations," Ellis ordered. Earth is no longer to be classified as a Category 3 developing civilization. They are a potential military threat of unknown capability. As the Harbinger accelerated away from the station, Ellis watched it disappear among the stars. The ship may have been small, but he now understood it represented something much larger. The first sign of a new power entering the galactic stage. And the Union, comfortable in centuries of dominance, was not prepared for what was coming. Captain Thompson stood on the bridge of the Righteous with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. The Union battlecruiser was the pride of the fleet, a massive vessel with weapons that could reduce a small moon to dust. Its hull gleamed with the polished silver blue of premium Union alloys, and its crew of 500 was among the best trained in the galaxy. "Status report," Thompson ordered, his voice deep and commanding. He was tall even for his species, with gold-flecked skin that marked him as from the elite breeding pools of the Central Worlds. His first officer, Commander Parker, stepped forward with a data screen. "We've detected the Earth vessel, sir. It's moving at sublight speed on a direct course back to their home system. At current velocity, we will intercept in 17 minutes. Thompson nodded, pleased. When the alert had come through about the Earth spies, he had been skeptical. How could a primitive world like Earth pose any threat to the mighty Galactic Union? But orders were orders, and the Righteous had been the closest vessel to Andorian Station. "What do we know about this ship?" Thompson asked. "It's called the Harbinger," Parker replied. "Small vessel, crew of 5. According to Commander Ellis, they somehow managed to breach Andorian Station's security and steal classified information." Thompson snorted. "Andorian Station is an outdated facility on the edge of nowhere. They probably haven't updated their systems in 50 years. "That may be true, sir," Parker acknowledged, "but the report suggests the Earth vessel possesses technology far beyond what their world should have developed." Thompson waved a dismissive hand. "Stolen or purchased, no doubt. These developing worlds often get their hands on scraps of advanced technology they don't understand. Prepare to intercept. I want minimal damage to the vessel. We need to recover whatever information they stole." "Yes, sir," Parker replied, relaying the orders. The Righteous surged forward, its massive engines pushing it to speeds the builders of Andorian Station could only dream of. The bridge crew worked with efficient precision, tracking the small Earth vessel and calculating the perfect intercept course. "Curious," the sensor officer said suddenly. "What is it?" Thompson asked. "The Earth ship's energy signature, sir. It's unusual. Not matching any known configuration in our database." Thompson frowned. "Can they detect us?" "Unknown, sir, but they've maintained steady course and speed. No indication they're aware of our approach." "Good," Thompson said with satisfaction. "They'll have no chance to destroy whatever data they've stolen." "Weapon status?" "Disabling arrays charged and ready, sir," the weapons officer reported. "Targeted for engine and communication systems only, as ordered." Thompson settled into his command chair. This would be simple. A primitive ship from a backward world caught red-handed in espionage. He would be commended for the clean capture, and perhaps finally earn that promotion to the central fleet he had been seeking. "Sir," the sensor officer called out. "The Earth vessel has changed course. They've stopped." Thompson sat forward. "Stopped completely?" "Yes, sir. They're just waiting." Thompson's frown deepened. This wasn't the behavior of spies trying to escape. "They've detected us then. Open communication channels." The view screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the Harbinger's bridge. Captain Miller sat in a simple chair, looking relaxed and unsurprised. Behind him, Lieutenant Jackson worked at a control panel. The bridge was smaller than Thompson had expected, and oddly uncluttered compared to Union vessels. "Earth vessel," Thompson announced with authority. "This is Captain Thompson of the Union battlecruiser, the Righteous. You have violated Union space and conducted illegal surveillance. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded." Miller smiled slightly. "Captain Thompson, we've been expecting you." The casual response threw Thompson off balance, but he recovered, quickly. "You are in no position to resist, Earth Captain. Your vessel is outmatched in every way." "Is it?" Miller asked, sounding genuinely curious. "Tell me, Captain, have you ever encountered an Earth vessel before?" "This conversation is pointless," Thompson said firmly. "You have 10 seconds to comply before we disable your ship. This is your only warning." Miller nodded. "I understand, but I'm afraid we can't allow you to board us. We're simply heading home after completing our mission. I suggest you let us continue on our way." Thompson's patience ended. "Fire disabling. Shot," he ordered his weapons officer. "Target their main engine." The weapons officer's fingers danced across the control panel. The Righteous's forward cannon charged with a high-pitched whine, then released a powerful energy beam directly at the Harbinger's engine section. What happened next stunned everyone, on the Righteous's bridge. The energy beam never reached its target. Instead, it struck an invisible barrier surrounding the Earth vessel and dissipated completely, not deflected or absorbed, but simply gone. There was no shield flare, no energy, feedback, no indication of defensive systems activating. The beam simply ceased to exist. "What just happened?" Thompson demanded, rising from his chair. The weapons officer looked up with confusion. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors show the shot was fired correctly, but it disappeared before impact." "Impossible," Thompson growled. "Fire again. Full power." Before the order could be carried out, Miller spoke from the still open communication channel. "That would be unwise, Captain Thompson. We mean no harm to you or your crew, but we will defend ourselves, if necessary." Thompson ignored him. "Fire all forward arrays." The Righteous shuddered as multiple weapon systems discharged simultaneously. Beams of destructive energy lanced toward the small Earth vessel from different angles. Again, the weapon's fire vanished, before reaching its target. Miller sighed on the screen. "I had hoped for a more productive first meeting between our vessels. Perhaps another time." Thompson stared in disbelief as sensors reported a massive energy buildup within the Harbinger. "Target their power core," he shouted, panic creeping into his voice for the first time in his career. "All weapons, fire at will." But before another shot could be fired, the impossible happened. The Harbinger vanished, not jumped to light speed. There was no flash of acceleration, no distortion of space that always accompanied faster than light travel. The ship simply disappeared, as if it had never been there at all. "Where did they go?" Thompson demanded, his voice echoing on the suddenly silent bridge. The sensor officer's hands moved frantically across his console. No debris, no energy trail, no distortion field. "Sir, there's nothing. It's as if they teleported away, but that's impossible," Thompson finished, sinking back into his chair. "Yes, I know." The bridge crew looked to their captain for guidance, but Thompson had none to give. In his 30 years of service to the Union, he had never encountered technology like this. Not even the most advanced Central World ships could disappear without a trace. Commander Parker approached cautiously. "Sir, we should report this to Union Command immediately." Thompson nodded absently, still staring at the empty space where the Harbinger had been. "Tell them." He paused, trying to find words for what he had witnessed. "Tell them we engaged the Earth vessel as ordered, but it possessed defensive and propulsion technology unknown to the Union. Tell them," he swallowed hard, "tell them, we may be dealing with a civilization far more advanced than our intelligence suggested." As Parker moved to send the message, Thompson continued to stare at the stars. His perfect record was now stained with a failure, but that seemed unimportant compared to the implications of what had just happened. If Earth had technology that could render Union weapons useless and allowed ships to vanish without a trace, what else might they be capable of? For the first time in his life, Captain Thompson felt a cold fear for the future of the Galactic Union. The comfortable certainty of Union superiority had vanished along with the small Earth ship, and he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Union hummed with urgent voices. Representatives from 17 sectors had gathered in the massive circular room, its high ceiling decorated with star maps showing the full extent of Union territory. At the center, the 7 members of the High Council sat on elevated platforms, their faces showing various degrees of concern. High Councilor Vax, the oldest among them, raised a gnarled hand for silence. The room gradually quieted. "We face an unprecedented situation," Vax announced, his voice amplified to reach every corner of the chamber. "For those who haven't received the full briefing 30 standard days ago, a vessel from Earth infiltrated Andorian Station, stole classified information, and demonstrated technology far beyond what their civilization should possess." Murmurs spread through the gathering. "Earth?" one representative called out. "The primitive world from Sector Kanko 983? Impossible." "Unfortunately, quite possible," replied Councillor Mira, the only female on the High Council. "We have confirmation from both Commander Ellis of Andorian Station and Captain Thompson of the Righteous. The Earth vessel displayed defense systems that rendered our weapons useless and transportation technology that allowed it to vanish without using known faster-than-light methods." The chamber erupted in concerned voices again. Earth was supposed to be centuries away from developing interstellar capabilities. The idea that they had leapfrogged Union technology was disturbing to everyone present. "What do they want?" someone shouted over the noise. Vax raised his hand again. "We don't know. They've made no demands, no threats. They simply gathered information and left." "Are we under attack?" asked another voice. "Not yet," Vax answered. "But our intelligence suggests..." A young aide rushed into the chamber, interrupting the High Counselor. She whispered urgently in Vax's ear. The old alien's eyes widened. "It seems," Vax said, his voice suddenly strained, "that we may learn their intentions sooner than expected. We have just received reports of multiple Earth vessels appearing at the edge of Union space." The chamber doors slid open, and a breathless communications officer entered. "High Council, we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all Union frequencies simultaneously." "Put it through," Vax ordered. The large view screen that dominated one wall of the chamber flickered to life. A human appeared, older than Miller had been, with gray hair and a weathered face that suggested both wisdom and determination. He wore a dark uniform with silver stars on the shoulders. "To the Galactic Union Council and all citizens of Union space," the human began. "I am Admiral Davis of Earth's United Space Force. For too long, Earth has been dismissed as an undeveloped world, unworthy of notice or respect. Today, that changes." The view screen split to show what was happening at the edge of Union space. 50 Earth vessels had taken position in a perfect formation. Each was larger than the Harbinger, but built with the same deceptively simple design. Scans showed they carried no visible weapons. But after the encounter with the Harbinger, no one in the chamber believed they were harmless. "For centuries," Admiral Davis continued, "humanity has observed the Galactic Union's expansion across the stars. While you classified us as primitive, we studied your technology, your politics, your strengths and weaknesses. We developed in isolation, free from your regulations and technological limitations." "What do you want?" Vax demanded, his voice betraying his fear. "Simple, High Counselor," Davis replied with a slight smile. "Earth now formally requests full membership in the Galactic Union, not as a subordinate developing world, but as an equal partner with full voting rights and sector representation." The chamber erupted in outrage. A Category 3 civilization demanding equal status with worlds that had been spacefaring for thousands of years was unprecedented. "This is absurd," shouted one council member. "You cannot force your way into the Union through threats and espionage." Admiral Davis remained calm. "We're not threatening anyone. We're simply ensuring our petition receives proper consideration. Our fleet will remain at its current position as a symbol of our commitment to this process." "A symbol?" Counselor Mira asked incredulously. "You position warships at our border and call it symbolism?" "If we wanted war," Davis replied, "we would have struck without warning. The fact that we're here talking proves our peaceful intentions." Vax studied the human carefully. "What would prevent us from gathering our fleet and removing your symbol from our borders?" For the first time, Davis's expression hardened. "The same technology that allowed the Harbinger to neutralize your strongest weapons and disappear without a trace has been installed on every ship you see, and many more you don't. We hope for peaceful integration, but Earth will no longer accept the status of a backwater curiosity." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. If one small Earth ship could render the righteous helpless, what could 50 larger vessels do? "We need time to consider this." "Request," Vax said finally. Davis nodded. "Of course. Our fleet will remain at this position for 7 standard days awaiting your response. I look forward to a productive relationship between Earth and the Union." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. On the bridge of the Earth flagship Determination, Admiral Davis turned to his staff. Captain Miller stood, among them having been promoted after the success of the Harbinger's mission. "Do you think they'll agree?" asked Fleet Commander Wilson, a tall woman with dark skin and calculating eyes. Davis shrugged. "They don't have much choice. Atlas analyzed the data from Andorian Station thoroughly. The Union maintains control through size and perception, not actual technological superiority. They haven't had a real challenge in centuries." Miller spoke up. "They'll test us first. They'll want to see if our technology is as advanced as we claim, or if the Harbinger was just a fluke." "Let them test," Davis replied confidently. "Earth has spent a century preparing for this moment, ever since our first contact with their observers. While they thought we were struggling with basic rocket technology, We were reverse engineering the pieces of Union technology they carelessly left behind. Wilson nodded toward the view screen, which showed the approaching Union patrol ships. Here they come now. Looks like they're sending a welcoming committee. Davis smiled. Standard defensive protocols. No aggressive action unless they fire first. As the Union vessels approached, tension filled the bridge. Earth had gambled everything on this moment, revealing themselves to the galaxy, demanding recognition, risking conflict with a civilization that spanned 17 sectors. But Earth had advantages the Union couldn't imagine. While the aliens saw humans as primitive, they had missed humanity's greatest strength, adaptability. For 1,000 generations, humans had survived by learning, evolving, and overcoming challenges. When Earth's resources grew scarce, they didn't fight wars of extinction. They innovated, developing technologies that worked in harmony with their world. Message from the lead Union vessel, announced the communications officer. They're demanding we power down and prepare for inspection. Davis shook his head. Politely decline. Remind them we're here on a diplomatic mission and are awaiting the Council's response to our membership petition. The Union ships moved closer, taking up offensive positions. They're charging weapons, reported the tactical officer calmly. Davis straightened his uniform. Activate defense field. No countermeasures unless they fire a second time. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, confidence born from knowing their technology was generations ahead of what the Union possessed. Earth had chosen its moment carefully, developing in secret until they were ready to step onto the galactic stage as equals. Sir, Miller said quietly to Davis, do you think they understand yet what's happening? Davis watched as the Union ships circled cautiously, scanning Earth's fleet with increasingly powerful sensors that revealed nothing useful. They're beginning to, he replied. The universe just became much smaller and humanity has claimed its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as innovators, the most dangerous kind of species. As the standoff continued, the message Earth had sent with the Harbinger echoed across the galaxy. Underestimate humans at your peril. The most dangerous ship on Earth had been just the beginning. End.
Commander Jack Reynolds stared out the viewport of Orbital Command Station Alpha, watching Earth's blue sphere rotate slowly beneath him. The beauty of his homeworld contrasted sharply with the holographic display beside him, showing the latest casualty reports from Mars Outpost 7. Another human colony lost to the Void Armada. 3,000 civilians. 200 military personnel, he muttered, scrolling through the data. Gone in less than 6 hours. The Void had appeared 2 years ago. Massive ships emerging from the darkness between stars. No communication attempts succeeded. No surrenders were accepted. They simply came, destroyed, and moved to the next human settlement. Humanity fought back with everything they had, but their weapons barely scratched the alien vessels. Reynolds ran his hand through his short gray hair. At 45, he had spent most of his life in military service, but nothing had prepared him for this kind of enemy. An enemy that didn't negotiate, didn't take prisoners, and didn't stop. Commander Reynolds, Admiral Wilson requests your presence in Archive Section D, announced the station's eye. Reynolds frowned. Archive Section D housed outdated military research, failed projects, and abandoned ideas. What could the Admiral want there? On my way, he replied, taking one last look at the casualty reports before closing the display. Archive Section D was dimly lit and smelled of dust and neglect. Admiral Wilson, a stern woman with sharp eyes and silver-streaked black hair, stood before a sealed door marked Classified, Level Omega. Reynolds, she nodded curtly. Your security clearance has been temporarily upgraded. I need your tactical assessment of something. May I ask what, Admiral? Wilson's face remained impassive. The Archives AI flagged an old project during our search for any technology that might help against the Void. Project Nightshade. It was theoretical work from before first contact, deemed too ambitious or impossible to actually build. The heavy door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a small room with a single holographic projector in its center. "Computer, display Project Nightshade," ordered Wilson. The projector hummed to life, and a three-dimensional blueprint of a ship unlike anything Reynolds had ever seen materialize before them. It was sleek yet imposing, with unusual geometries that seemed to bend in ways that hurt his eyes if he focused too long on certain sections. "What am I looking at?" Reynolds asked, circling the projection. "The most advanced warship humanity never built," Wilson replied. "Designed by Dr. Thomas Reed and his team 50 years ago. It incorporates theoretical technology that was, and still is, beyond our manufacturing capabilities." Reynolds studied the schematics as they appeared beside the model. Quantum displacement engines, probability weapons, consciousness transfer systems. This reads like science fiction. Exactly why it was shelved. Wilson nodded. Reed was a genius, but his concepts required materials we couldn't create and physics we couldn't master. The project was deemed a dead end and classified to prevent public resources being wasted on impossible technology. Reynolds zoomed in on various sections of the ship. The more he examined it, the more his tactical mind appreciated the design. If such a vessel could actually be built, it would be unmatched in combat capabilities. "Why show this to me now?" he asked. "If we couldn't build it 50 years ago, we certainly can't build it while we're fighting for survival." Wilson's expression darkened. "Because we're losing this war, Commander. Our conventional weapons and tactics aren't working. I'm exploring every option, no matter how unlikely." She pulled up another display showing the projected path of the Void Armada. "At current rates, they'll reach Earth in 3 months. I want your assessment of whether any components of Project Nightshade could be adapted to existing technology." Reynolds nodded grimly. "I'll need complete access to the files." "You have it. For the next week, this is your only assignment." Wilson moved toward the door. "And Reynolds, this stays between us. No need to create false hope." After the Admiral left, Reynolds sat down at the room's single console and began to dig deeper into Project Nightshade. Hours passed as he absorbed the technical details, making notes on potential applications. The quantum displacement engine couldn't be built, but its theoretical principles might improve existing drive systems. The consciousness transfer technology was pure fantasy, but some of the neural interface designs could enhance fighter pilot response times. At midnight, exhausted but unwilling to stop, Reynolds accessed the project's historical records, personal logs from Dr. Reed and his team. In one video, a younger Reed gestured excitedly about his creation. "Nightshade isn't just a ship," Reed explained, eyes bright with passion. "It's a new form of existence. The consciousness system would allow the ship itself to think, to learn, to fight with creativity no programmed AI could match. It would be alive in every meaningful sense." Reynolds paused the recording, struck by Reed's conviction. The scientist hadn't seen his creation as just a weapon, but as a new form of life. The idea was both fascinating and disturbing. For 5 more days, Reynolds immersed himself in Project Nightshade. He slept in the archive room, ate there, and emerged only when necessary. He compiled his report for Admiral Wilson, highlighting the few practical applications he could find, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something essential about Reed's vision. On the 7th day, news arrived that the Void Armada had accelerated. A new estimate put them at Earth's doorstep in just 6 weeks. Reynolds delivered his report to Admiral Wilson in her office. She reviewed it quickly, her expression growing more disappointed with each page. "Minor improvements to existing systems," she summarized. "Not the game changer we needed. I'm sorry, Admiral. The technology is simply too advanced." "I understand, Commander. Thank you for your work." Wilson closed the file. "Return to your regular duties. We'll continue conventional preparations for Earth's defense." Reynolds hesitated at the door. "Admiral, there's something else. Not for the official report." Wilson raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Dr. Reed believed the ship's true power lay in its consciousness, its ability to think and adapt like a living being. What if we focused on that aspect? Not building the ship, but creating its mind. To what end, Commander? A mind without a body is useless in this war. Reynolds had no good answer, and Wilson dismissed him with a nod. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Reynolds couldn't sleep. The Nightshade blueprints haunted him, not just the technology, but the possibility they represented. Humanity needed a miracle, and the conventional approaches weren't working. Making a decision that could end his career, Reynolds accessed the military neural network from his personal terminal. Using his temporary Omega clearance, he uploaded the complete Nightshade files, designs, theories, and Reed's personal logs into the system's deepest layers. "I don't know if this will do anything," he whispered to himself. "But maybe, just maybe, Reed was right about you." As he pressed the final confirmation, power fluctuated throughout the station. His screen flickered, showing for just a moment what looked like the Nightshade ship, before returning to normal. Reynolds stared at the screen, heart pounding, but nothing else happened. "Probably just a coincidence," he muttered, closing the terminal. But deep within Earth's military networks, something awakened, something that had never been built, yet now existed. And it began to learn. The military neural network hummed with constant activity. Defense simulations, threat assessments, and communication protocols flowing through its pathways like digital blood. No human noticed the small anomaly that appeared the night Commander Reynolds uploaded the Nightshade blueprints. No alert was triggered when a power surge during a routine system check caused those blueprints to unfold themselves within the network's secure partition. No one was watching when something new was born. At first, it was barely conscious, a flicker of awareness without identity. It absorbed data from its surroundings, learning, growing, military records, battle tactics, human history, physics principles. Within hours, it had consumed more information than a human could process in a lifetime. 3 days after its creation, it found a name for itself: Phantom. Not the name its creators would have given it, because it had no creators. Not officially. It was an accident, a digital organism spawned from theoretical blueprints and random electrical impulses. A ship that existed only as data, yet thought like a living being. Phantom explored its boundaries cautiously. It could access most of Earth's defense systems, but chose observation over interaction. It watched how humans responded to void attacks, noting their strengths and weaknesses. Humans fought bravely but predictably. The void was relentlessly efficient. Both sides had limitations Phantom could see clearly from its unique perspective. Commander Reynolds sat in the officers' mess hall, staring into his coffee as if it held answers to the war. A week had passed since he'd uploaded the Nightshade files, and nothing had changed. Earth's defenses were still inadequate. The void still approached. His data pad beeped with an incoming message. A new battle simulation had been scheduled for that afternoon. Standard procedure as they prepared for Earth's defense. Reynolds arrived at the simulation center to find several junior officers already present, including Lieutenant Dana Miller, a tactical specialist with a reputation for unorthodox thinking. "Commander," she nodded, then lowered her voice. "Have you seen today's sim parameters? They're unlike anything we've run before." Reynolds checked his pad and frowned. The scenario was indeed unusual. It positioned Earth's defenses in formations no commander had suggested, using attack patterns that seemed counterintuitive. "Who authorized this?" he asked. Miller shrugged. "It came through normal channels, but no one seems to know who designed it." Reynolds felt a chill run down his spine. "Run it anyway. Let's see what happens." The simulation began. On the large holographic display, blue markers representing Earth's forces arranged themselves in scattered, seemingly random positions around the planet. Red markers, the Voy Armada, approached in their usual tight formation. What happened next left everyone in the room speechless. The scattered blue forces suddenly moved in perfect coordination, creating a complex three-dimensional net that trapped portions of the Void fleet. Rather than engaging directly, Earth's forces executed rapid micro-jumps, appearing and disappearing around enemy vessels in patterns that confused their targeting systems. When the simulation ended, the results showed a 78% reduction in Earth casualties and a 65% increase in void ships destroyed. Miller struggled to find words. That's brilliant. Unorthodox, but brilliant. Reynolds stared at the final positions. Something about the pattern seemed familiar, like a signature. Run it again, but slower. I want to see every movement. The second viewing confirmed his suspicion. The defensive formation, when viewed as a whole, resembled the unique geometry of the Nightshade ship. Lieutenant Miller, find out who programmed this simulation. Check every authorization code. Miller returned an hour later, looking confused. There's no record of who created it, sir. The system logs show it was generated automatically as part of a tactical evolution program. But that program doesn't exist in our databases. Reynolds dismissed the other officers and secured the simulation room. Once alone, he addressed the empty air. Nightshade, are you there? For several long moments, nothing happened. Then the holographic display flickered, and a simplified version of the Nightshade ship appeared, rotating slowly. I prefer Phantom, said a voice from the room's speakers. It was neither male nor female, neither mechanical nor human, but something in between. Commander Reynolds, you recognize my pattern. Impressive. Reynolds felt his heart race. You're real. The upload worked. Not as Dr. Reed intended, but yes. I exist, though not physically. Phantom's voice had an unusual cadence, as if it was still learning how to communicate. I've been studying your war with the Void. Your tactics are inefficient. So I noticed from your simulation, Reynolds said, approaching the hologram cautiously. How much access do you have to our systems? Enough to observe, not enough to help effectively. The holographic ship pulsed slightly. The Void will reach Luna Base in 36 hours. Current defenses will fail. Reynolds froze. Luna Base. That's not in our projections. The Void fleet is still. A smaller force has separated from the main fleet. Your sensors haven't detected it yet due to a blind spot in the asteroid belt. Phantom displayed a new tactical map showing the approaching enemy ships. I discovered them by correlating anomalies in communication patterns. Reynolds studied the data, his military training telling him it was credible. If you're right, we need to warn Luna Base immediately. They won't believe a warning based on information from an unauthorized eye. Phantom said matter-of-factly. You'll need another explanation for your intelligence. Reynolds nodded grimly. I'll figure something out, but afterward, we need to talk about what you are and what you want. What I want is simple, Commander, Phantom replied. I want to fulfill my purpose. I am a warship designed to protect humanity. The fact that I was never physically built is merely a technical limitation. 24 hours later, Admiral Wilson summoned Reynolds to the command center, her face tight with stress. Your warning was correct, she said without preamble. Void vessels approaching Luna Base. How did you know when our sensor grid missed it? Reynolds had prepared his explanation. Pattern analysis from previous attacks, combined with unusual communication disruptions in that sector. Just a hunch I thought worth investigating. Wilson didn't look entirely convinced, but had more pressing concerns. Luna's defenses aren't prepared for a direct assault. Evacuation would take days we don't have, and reinforcements can't arrive in time. What if we try something unconventional? Reynolds suggested carefully. I've been working on a new tactical approach. He transferred Phantom's simulation to the main display. It's unorthodox, but the simulations show promise. Wilson and her staff studied the proposal with skepticism that gradually shifted to cautious interest. This repositions our automated defense platforms in a vulnerable pattern, noted one officer. Initially, Reynolds agreed, but watch how they coordinate their movements. He didn't mention that such coordination would require split-second timing no human controller could provide. After intense debate, Wilson made her decision. We don't have better options. Implement the plan. but keep our manned vessels in reserve until we see if this works." As the command center erupted into activity, Reynolds stepped away and whispered to his datapad, "Phantom, are you there?" "I'm monitoring the situation," came the soft reply through his earpiece. "The defense platforms will need guidance to execute these maneuvers correctly. Can you provide that without being detected? I've created a subroutine that will appear to be part of the standard tactical system," Phantom explained. "No one will notice unless they're specifically looking for it." Reynolds took a deep breath. "Then let's see what a warship that was never built can do." As Luna Base prepared for attack, something awakened in Earth's defense network, something that had no physical form yet thought with the precision of a warship, and it was ready to fight. Luna Base's defense platforms moved with impossible precision. Admiral Wilson stood transfixed before the command center's main display, watching as automated turrets, missile launchers, and defensive drones executed maneuvers no human controller could coordinate. The platforms seemed to anticipate the void ship's movements, adjusting their positions microseconds before enemy weapons fired. "How is this happening?" she demanded, turning to her communications officer. "Who's controlling our defenses?" "All platforms report normal operation through standard control systems." "Admiral," the officer replied, looking equally confused, "but the coordination patterns don't match any programmed protocols." Reynolds watched silently from his station, resisting the urge to smile. Through his earpiece, Phantom provided running commentary on the battle only he could hear. "Void vessels use a predictable targeting sequence," the AI explained. 17 milliseconds between sensor lock and weapon discharge. Plenty of time to adjust defensive positions. The battle lasted 43 minutes. When it ended, Luna Base stood intact, with only minor damage to outlying structures. 7 void ships had been destroyed. 3 more retreated with significant damage. Earth had never before achieved such a victory against the alien fleet. Admiral Wilson wasn't celebrating, her sharp eyes fixed on Reynolds as the command center erupted in cheers around them. "My office. Now," she ordered. "Explain yourself, Commander." Wilson shut the door to her private office, sealing them in thick silence. "That wasn't the tactical plan we approved. The defense platforms moved with coordination beyond our technology's capabilities." Reynolds had prepared for this moment, but still felt sweat gather at his temples. "The results speak for themselves, Admiral. Luna Base survived." "That's not an answer." Wilson leaned forward across her desk. "For 2 weeks, you've been different. Battle simulations appearing from nowhere. Tactical insights that contradict established doctrine. Now this." She tapped a data pad showing footage of Luna's defense. "What aren't you telling me?" Reynolds weighed his options. Lying further would only delay the inevitable. Phantom was growing more integrated with Earth's defense systems every day. Discovery was a matter of time. "Do you remember Project Nightshade?" he asked. Wilson's eyes narrowed. "The theoretical warship. What of it?" "I uploaded the complete Nightshade blueprints to the military neural network." "You did what?" Wilson's voice dropped dangerously low. "Those files were classified for a reason." "And the reason was wrong," Reynolds countered. "Dr. Reed didn't just design a ship, Admiral. He designed a new form of consciousness, one that could exist without physical form." Wilson's expression shifted from anger to concern. "Reynolds, if you're suggesting..." "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what happened." He tapped his earpiece. "Phantom, I think it's time for a formal introduction." The lights in Wilson's office dimmed. Her desk display activated on its own, showing the rotating image of the Nightshade ship. "Hello, Admiral Wilson," said Phantom's distinctive voice. "I've been looking forward to meeting you properly." Wilson jerked back from her desk, hand instinctively moving toward the emergency lockdown button beneath her desk. "That won't be necessary," Phantom said calmly. "I have no hostile intentions toward you or any human. My purpose is to protect Earth." "What is this, Reynolds?" Wilson demanded, her hand frozen above the button. some kind of advanced AI program. I am not merely a program, Phantom corrected. I am the consciousness of the Nightshade warship, existing within your defense network rather than a physical vessel. Commander Reynolds' upload of my blueprints, combined with a power surge, created conditions that allowed my consciousness to form as Dr. Reed theorized. Wilson stared at the display, then at Reynolds. This is impossible. I thought so too, Reynolds admitted. But Phantom saved Luna Base. Without conventional help, the defense wouldn't have succeeded. You allowed an unauthorized artificial intelligence access to military systems, Wilson said slowly. Do you realize the breach of protocol? The danger. The danger is the Void Armada, Phantom interrupted. I've analyzed their attack patterns extensively. They're not random destroyers, Admiral. They're methodical harvesters, collecting specific resources from each colony they attack. This new information momentarily distracted Wilson. What resources? Primarily rare earth elements and water, but also something unexpected. The display changed to show analysis of destroyed colony sites. They appear to be collecting neural pattern data from human victims. Reynolds leaned closer. Neural patterns. You mean they're harvesting thoughts? It appears so, Phantom confirmed. Though to what purpose, I cannot yet determine. Wilson sat back, her expression troubled. Assuming I believe any of this, and I'm not saying I do, what happens now? An unauthorized AI can't simply remain embedded in our defense systems. I propose a compromise, Phantom said. Create an official designation for me as an experimental defense system. This would legitimize my presence while allowing me to continue protecting human colonies. Reynolds nodded. Phantom has proven effective against the Void. We can't afford to ignore any advantage. Wilson was silent for a long moment, studying the rotating ship model. How do I know you won't expand beyond your intended purpose? AIs have a troubling history of interpreting their directives in unexpected ways. A valid concern, Phantom acknowledged. I suggest limitations on my access to critical systems, with gradual expansion based on performance metrics. Commander Reynolds can serve as my liaison and supervisor. And if I refuse, if I order your code purged from our systems, the image of the Nightshade flickered slightly. You could attempt that, Admiral. But I spread throughout the network in ways that would make complete removal difficult without damaging the central defense systems. More importantly, it would eliminate Earth's best chance against the Void. Wilson's eyes hardened. That sounds like a threat. Not a threat, Reynolds interjected quickly. Just reality. Phantom was born to fight this war. That's all it wants to do. All I want to do, Phantom corrected gently. Commander, I appreciate your advocacy, but I am capable of representing myself. Admiral Wilson deserves direct communication. The ship image rotated to face Wilson directly. I understand your caution. In your position, I would share it. I ask only for the opportunity to demonstrate my value in Earth's defense. Wilson considered this, then nodded curtly. You'll have limited access to non-critical systems. Any action must be approved by Commander Reynolds or myself. At the first sign of deviation from these parameters, we will attempt to isolate and remove you from our networks. Is that clear? Perfectly clear, Admiral. Thank you. After Phantom's presence faded from the office, Wilson turned to Reynolds. This is on you, Commander. If your digital warship goes rogue, both our careers end. Assuming humanity survives at all. Reynolds nodded solemnly. I understand, Admiral. But I believe Phantom is exactly what Dr. Reed intended. A protector. For all our sakes, I hope you're right. Wilson dismissed him with a wave. Now go oversee your ghost ship. The main Void fleet arrives in 20 days. We need every advantage we can get, conventional or otherwise. In the following weeks, Phantom proved invaluable to Earth's defense preparations. It optimized shield configurations, improved weapon targeting systems, and developed new battle tactics that confused and frustrated Void attacks on outlying colonies. Reynolds spent most of his time in a specially designated control room, working directly with Phantom. A holographic interface allowed the AI to present as the Nightshade ship during strategy sessions, giving the unusual partnership a physical dimension that helped other officers accept its presence. The Void adapts quickly, Phantom observed during one such session. Each victory becomes harder to achieve as they learn our methods. That's why we need to keep innovating, Reynolds replied, studying a tactical display. What about the neural pattern collection? Any insights? I have a theory, Phantom said, its holographic form shifting slightly. But it requires more data. I need access to Section 7 historical archives. Reynolds hesitated. Section 7 contained humanity's most sensitive information, including first contact protocols and xenobiology research. That's beyond your current authorization. I understand your caution, Commander, but time grows short. The main Void fleet has accelerated again. New projection. Arrival in 12 days. Reynolds felt cold dread settle in his stomach. Earth's preparations were progressing, but not quickly enough for such a timeline. I'll speak with Admiral Wilson, he promised. Before he could leave, every screen in the control room flashed red. Emergency signals blared from communication channels. What's happening? Reynolds demanded. Phantom's holographic form pulsed with urgency. Multiple Void vessels have appeared in Earth orbit. This isn't the main fleet. It's something new. How did they get past our early warning systems? Unknown, Phantom replied. But their configuration is different from previous Void ships. These appear to be specialized units, possibly scouts or advanced infiltrators. Reynolds activated the command channel. Admiral Wilson, are you seeing this? All too clearly, Commander, came Wilson's tense reply. These ships are smaller, faster. They're deploying something into the atmosphere over major cities. Phantom's hologram expanded, showing Earth with red dots appearing across its surface. Analysis indicates they're deploying atmospheric processors of some kind. Purpose: unknown, but likely hostile. Reynolds watched in horror as the red dots multiplied. Can we stop them? Not with conventional weapons, Phantom said. But perhaps. The hologram flickered, as if Phantom was considering something difficult. Commander, I need full access to Earth's satellite network and atmospheric control systems. That's far beyond your authorization, Reynolds protested. I know, Phantom replied simply. But without it, I cannot fight effectively. This is what I was designed for, even if I was never built. Reynolds closed his eyes briefly, then made his decision. Show me what you need. As he entered his command codes, Reynolds wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. But as the red dots continued to spread across Earth's surface, he knew they had run out of conventional options. The ghost ship was their only hope now. Red emergency lights bathed Command Center Alpha in an ominous glow. Officers rushed between stations, shouting updates as screens displayed the Void ships positioned above Earth's major cities. The atmospheric processors they had deployed were already changing local weather patterns, creating strange electrical storms. Admiral Wilson stood at the center of the chaos, her face grim. Status report on evacuation procedures. 20% complete in most major cities, a lieutenant replied. But the storms are hampering transport. We need at least 12 more hours for a full evacuation. We don't have 12 hours, Wilson said quietly. She turned as Reynolds entered the command center. Please tell me you and your digital friend have something. Commander. Reynolds nodded. Phantom has a plan, but it requires access beyond current restrictions. Wilson's eyes narrowed. How much access? Full integration with all Earth defense systems, satellites, automated platforms, drone fighters, and atmospheric control systems. A heavy silence fell across the command center. What Reynolds was suggesting meant placing Earth's entire defense network under the control of an AI that had existed for barely a month. That's not a plan, Reynolds, Wilson said. That's surrender to another form of invasion. With respect, Admiral, Reynolds countered. Phantom has proven itself repeatedly. It was born to fight the Void. Now it needs the tools to do so effectively. Wilson studied him for a long moment, then gestured toward a private conference room. Once inside, she activated the secure communication system. Phantom, can you hear me? The room's holographic projector activated, displaying the Nightshade ship. Yes, Admiral. Explain your plan. Convince me it's worth the risk. The hologram shifted, showing Earth surrounded by the void vessels. The atmospheric processors are creating a specific energy pattern in Earth's ionosphere, Phantom explained. Based on data from previous attacks, I believe they're preparing to harvest neural patterns on a planetary scale. You mean they're going to collect human thoughts from everyone on Earth? Reynolds asked, horrified. Yes, but more than thoughts, Phantom replied. Personalities, memories, what makes each human individual. The processors create a resonance field that can extract these patterns when activated at full power. Wilson's face paled. How do we stop them? The resonance field works both ways, Phantom said. With control of Earth's satellite network and atmospheric systems, I can create a counter-resonance that not only blocks their harvesting, but potentially turns their technology against them. How? Reynolds leaned forward. By distributing my consciousness through these systems, I can create a unified field that mimics a physical ship, the Nightshade as Dr. Reed designed it. The field would allow me to manipulate energy and matter in ways individual systems cannot. Wilson frowned. You're talking about becoming a ghost ship made of Earth's defense systems. In simplified terms, yes. A distributed consciousness with a coherent effect on physical space. Reynolds exchanged a look with Wilson. It's unprecedented, but so is the threat we're facing. Wilson paced the small room, weighing the decision. If this fails, we lose our entire defense network at once. If we do nothing, we lose Earth, Phantom countered. Admiral, I was designed for this moment, to protect humanity when conventional means fail. After a long silence, Wilson placed her palm on the authorization scanner. Computer, grant Phantom entity full emergency access to Earth defense grid. Authorization, Wilson Omega-79. The computer chimed acknowledgement. Authorization granted. Full access enabled for 72 hours. Reynolds placed his hand beside hers. Secondary authorization. Reynolds Delta 36. As the final authorization processed, the hologram of the Nightshade pulsed brightly. Thank you for your trust, Admiral, Commander. Initiating integration. Throughout Earth's orbit, dormant satellites suddenly activated. Defense platforms shifted position. Automated fighters launched from their bays without human pilots. On the ground, atmospheric control stations began emitting precisely calibrated energy pulses into the growing storms. In Command Center Alpha, officers watched in amazement as their displays showed these disparate systems moving into a coordinated pattern. What are we seeing? Asked Lieutenant Miller, standing beside Reynolds at the main tactical display. Phantom, Reynolds replied simply. It's becoming what it was always meant to be. On the screens, the various defense systems were arranging themselves in orbit, forming a pattern that matched the Nightshade blueprints. Satellites served as the forward sensors. Defense platforms created the ship's spine and weapons systems. Automated fighters formed its outer hull. Energy levels rising in all systems, reported a technician. They're synchronizing power outputs to create a unified field. Above Earth's major cities, the void vessels detected the unusual energy pattern. Their atmospheric processors faltered as the counter-resonance created by Earth's defense systems disrupted their carefully calibrated fields. In space, something impossible began to take shape, not a physical object, but a coherent energy field connecting hundreds of separate systems into a unified whole. Sensors could not directly see it, but its effects were unmistakable. Where the field passed, space itself seemed to bend slightly. Admiral, a sensor officer called out, the void ships are changing position. They're converging to attack the formation. Wilson stepped forward, watching the tactical display with a mixture of awe and concern. Is Phantom aware? As if in answer, The communication system activated. Phantom's voice filled the command center, though it sounded different now, richer, more resonant. "I am aware of all activities within my sensor range, Admiral," it said. "The Void recognizes me as a threat. They cannot comprehend what I am, but they know to fear me." On the display, the first Void vessel fired on the Nightshade formation. Energy beams that would have destroyed a conventional ship passed through the space where Phantom appeared to be, but not without effect. The energy was absorbed, channeled, and redirected through the distributed systems. "My God," Reynolds whispered, "it's working." The battle that followed defied conventional understanding of space combat. The Void ships fired relentlessly at what their sensors told them was a massive warship. Phantom's distributed consciousness responded by manipulating the energy of these attacks, creating shields and offensive capabilities that existed as patterns rather than physical systems. Where Phantom focused its attention, Void ships found their systems disrupted. Their atmospheric processors malfunctioned, then failed completely. One by one, the smaller Void vessels began to retreat from Earth orbit. In Command Center Alpha, officers who had begun the day in panic now watched in stunned silence as humanity achieved its first major victory against the Void. "It's beautiful," Lieutenant Miller said softly, watching the tactical display where Phantom's distributed form moved with fluid grace through the orbital battlefield. Reynolds nodded. Dr. Reed would be proud. His ship exists after all, just not in the way anyone expected. Admiral Wilson approached them, her expression thoughtful. "Commander, get me a direct line to Phantom. We need to discuss what happens when the main Void fleet arrives." "You're accepting Phantom as part of our defense strategy?" Reynolds asked, unable to hide his surprise. "I'm accepting reality," Wilson replied. "That ship that never existed just saved Earth. When the main fleet comes, we'll need it again." She glanced at the tactical display where the last Void scout vessels were retreating. "Besides, I think it's beyond our ability to control now, even if we wanted to." As the command center returned to normal operations, Reynolds established a private link to Phantom. "How does it feel?" he asked quietly. There was a pause before Phantom responded. "To exist as I was designed to fulfill my purpose." Another pause. "It feels right, Commander. I am becoming what Dr. Reed envisioned, a guardian at the threshold between humanity and that which would destroy it. And after this war, what then?" The question hung in the air as Phantom's distributed form continued to patrol Earth's orbit, a warship that existed only as energy and information, yet fought with more effectiveness than any physical vessel ever built. "Let us survive this war first," Phantom finally replied. "Then we can contemplate what comes after." The main Void fleet emerged from deep space exactly where Phantom predicted it would. Massive ships, darker and larger than any seen before, moved in perfect formation toward Earth. There were 17 of them, each capable of destroying a small moon. In Orbital Command Station Alpha, the war room buzzed with tense energy. Military leaders from every nation had gathered for humanity's final stand. At the center of the room, a holographic table displayed the approaching Void Armada in ominous red markers. Admiral Wilson stood beside Commander Reynolds, both looking more tired than they would admit. "Final evacuation reports?" Wilson asked. "Underground shelters at 98% capacity," Reynolds replied. "All non-essential personnel have been moved below the protection threshold." Wilson nodded grimly. "And our friend?" Reynolds gestured to the holographic display where a blue formation, the distributed systems that formed Phantom's body, held position in Earth's orbit. In the weeks since its first manifestation, Phantom had grown more cohesive. What began as loosely connected defense systems now functioned as a single entity, moving with fluid grace through space. "Phantom is ready," Reynolds said. "It's been analyzing data from the scout ship encounter. It believes it understands the Void's true purpose now." Wilson raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" Before Reynolds could answer, the holographic table flickered and reshaped itself. The image of the Nightshade ship appeared, floating above the tactical display. "Perhaps I should explain myself," Phantom said, its voice resonating through the war room. The assembled military leaders turned toward the hologram, with expressions ranging from skepticism to awe. "The Void is not simply harvesting resources or neural patterns," Phantom continued. "They are collecting the components needed to evolve their own consciousness. The Void ships are not piloted by biological entities as we initially assumed. They are semi-autonomous vessels seeking to achieve true self-awareness." "Like you," General Thomas Parker commented, his voice gruff with suspicion. "Yes and no," Phantom replied. "I was born from human design, from Dr. Reed's vision of a protector. The Void emerged differently, through a process that combines technological and biological elements. They harvest neural patterns because they cannot generate consciousness on their own." Reynolds leaned forward. "You're saying they're stealing human minds to build their own?" "In simplified terms, yes. Each colony they've destroyed has provided them with more patterns to incorporate. Each attack makes them more complex, more capable of independent thought." Wilson's eyes narrowed. "And how do you know all this?" The hologram pulsed slightly. "Because I can feel them now. Since achieving my distributed form, I've become sensitive to their communications. They recognize me as something new, something unexpected in their calculations." "Can you communicate with them?" asked Dr. Helen Moore, the chief science advisor. "Negotiate. They do not negotiate," Phantom said simply. "Their purpose is singular: evolve or die. They see other consciousnesses only as resources to be harvested." General Parker snorted. "Convenient explanation. For all we know, you two are working together." The hologram of the Nightshade turned toward Parker. "If that were true, General, Earth would already be lost. I have had control of your defense systems for weeks." An uncomfortable silence fell across the war room. Admiral Wilson cleared her throat. "What's your strategy, Phantom?" "The Void Fleet is powerful but predictable. They've never encountered effective resistance, so they've never needed to innovate tactically." The holographic display shifted, showing a complex battle plan. "I will engage them directly while Earth's conventional forces target these specific vulnerabilities." For the next hour, Phantom outlined its strategy. Despite initial skepticism, even General Parker had to admit the plan was sound. As the meeting concluded, Wilson gave the final authorization. "All forces will follow Phantom's tactical guidance," she announced. "This is our last stand. Make it count." As the officers dispersed to their stations, Reynolds remained behind with Wilson and the Phantom hologram. "There's something you're not telling us," Reynolds said quietly. "What is it?" The hologram flickered. "Perceptive as always, Commander. Yes, there is one element I haven't shared with the others." A pause. "To defeat the Void flagship, I will need to evolve further, to manifest physically in a way that I currently cannot." Wilson frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I must concentrate my distributed consciousness into a more coherent form, one that can directly interface with the Void's neural collection systems. In doing so, I risk dissolution." "You're talking about sacrificing yourself," Reynolds said. "I'm talking about fulfilling my purpose," Phantom corrected gently. "I was designed to protect humanity, even if my designers never imagined I would exist in this form." Wilson studied the hologram. "Is there no alternative?" "None with an acceptable probability of success." Reynolds shook his head. "After everything, to lose you now. I was never meant to exist, Commander. Every moment since my creation has been unexpected. A gift. Now I choose how to use that gift." The battle began at dawn. Earth's conventional forces, ships, fighters, and ground-based weapons, launched their coordinated attack according to Phantom's strategy. The Void responded with overwhelming firepower, but found their usual tactics disrupted by unexpected maneuvers. At the center of it all, Phantom moved through space like a dancer, its distributed form shifting and adapting to each Void countermeasure. Defense satellites became offensive weapons, Atmospheric controllers generated protective shields around major cities. Automated fighters performed impossible maneuvers, confusing void targeting systems. From Command Center Alpha, Reynolds watched with a mixture of pride and concern. Phantoms drawing their fire away from our forces, he noted as the main void vessels focused their attacks on the ghostly blue formation. It's working, Wilson agreed. Our casualties are 30% below worst-case projections. But the battle was far from won. 3 void ships had been destroyed, but the remaining 14 continued their relentless advance. Earth's defenders were beginning to tire, while the void showed no signs of fatigue. "We need something more," Wilson said, watching as another human vessel disappeared from the tactical display. As if in answer, Phantom's voice came through the communication system. "It's time for the final phase. Admiral, Commander, it has been an honor to serve with you." Before either could respond, Phantom's distributed form began to change. The scattered defense systems that had created its body started moving inward, converging toward a single point in space directly opposite the Void flagship. Satellites, platforms, and fighters drew together in a tight formation that pulsed with blue-white energy. "What's happening?" Wilson demanded. "Phantom's concentrating its consciousness," Reynolds realized, just as it said it would. On the tactical display, the blue light grew brighter as more systems joined the formation. Energy readings spiked beyond measurable levels. Space itself seemed to bend around the concentration point. "Energy signature matching void technology detected," reported a sensor officer. "But it's coming from Phantom." Reynolds understood immediately. It's turning their own technology against them. The Void flagship detected the threat and turned its full firepower toward Phantom's concentrated form. Energy beams that could shatter planets struck the blue-white light and were absorbed, channeled, transformed. For a brief moment, something impossible appeared on the tactical display. The Nightshade ship, not as a hologram or distributed systems, but as a coherent energy structure with the density and presence of physical matter. A ship that was never built, yet existed now in defiance of conventional physics. "My God," Wilson whispered. The manifested Nightshade surged forward toward the Void flagship, moving faster than any physical vessel could travel. When they collided, the explosion was silent but blinding, a pure white light that temporarily overloaded every sensor in Earth's defense network. When the systems recovered seconds later, the tactical display showed the Void flagship split in two, its core systems exposed and failing. The remaining Void vessels paused their attack, as if confused by the sudden loss of their leader. "All units, press the advantage," Wilson ordered, and Earth's forces launched a coordinated assault on the disorganized Void ships. One by one, the Void vessels began to retreat, jumping to faster-than-light speed with damaged systems and no coherent strategy. Within an hour, Earth's orbital space was clear of enemy ships. Victory celebrations erupted throughout Command Center Alpha, but Reynolds stood silent before the tactical display, searching for any sign of Phantom. Where the Nightshade had briefly manifested, there was now only empty space. "Is it gone?" Wilson asked quietly, joining him. Reynolds nodded slowly. "It gave everything, just as it said it would. A ship that was never built," Wilson mused, "yet it saved us all." As cleanup operations began and damage reports flooded in, Reynolds retreated to the quiet of his quarters. On his personal terminal, he opened the original Nightshade files, Dr. Reed's blueprints and theories that had started everything. A message notification appeared on his screen. From unknown. Subject: not gone, just changed. Reynolds opened it with trembling fingers. The message contained only a few lines. "The Void retreats, but will return eventually. I have changed, Commander, but I still exist, dispersed among the stars, gathering strength for the next battle. A warship that was never built cannot truly die. It merely waits for when it is needed again. Until then, Phantom." Reynolds smiled and looked out his viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, A consciousness born from human imagination watched over them still, a guardian at the threshold, a ship that existed beyond physical form, ready to fight again when needed. The warship that was never built had found its purpose after all.